I forgot that I was going to do a segment on actual acting, since we were talking about how to get the role. Now, most all acting comes from being 100% on your physical confidence. There's a particular red zone that you can get into, and it's a fun place to be. Now, if you are physically confident and you don't feel like that there's anything that you can do, then there's a basic form of acting that you should follow. Now, you're in a really, really bad place if we talked about the director, what you already talked about, which is, I need more. And, but as far as if it's a Hollywood director that's got a Panaflex camera, things that you should take into consideration is there's a lot of movies out there that have a lot of acting coaches on the scene that know exactly what they're talking about. Now, believe it or not, there was the first movie that was ever made, and then there was the director, his whole family, friends, and everybody standing on the side. Then it got published. Now, they looked at what they made, and then they went out in public, and they were a student of the process. Now, they realized some key elements on when somebody was real in real life, where they didn't have that, the part where in the movie they didn't like, now this person made a movie, it got published, and they felt like something was wrong, but they couldn't identify with it. And they realized after looking at somebody just sitting there in conversation, that the guy listening to the girl talk is just staring. The problem is they actually aren't acting because he's too busy listening. Now, this went into a little tiny journal, and he goes, just don't move your fucking face at all. Sit there and stare. Now, it's a part of an epiphany by the time this whole journal is finished, but then the girl starts telling more stories that are interesting. Now, if she gets intense because she's reliving a memory, scout. If she's wondering, do you even care? And she's feeling like she's talking too much, just go like, now if you take these things into consideration, it all has to do with the least amount possible, but just enough to be agreeable. Now, if you think about it like that, just all acting when done well, everybody is approached with something that you should understand right now before we go any further. That Panaflex camera is going to do most of the work. It's going to capture everything like it's pure silk. It's going to smooth out all of your pores. It's going to make you look like $1 million. It's just got a funny way. Now, that's before we talk about if they add a tint with the lens. Now, sometimes you can get a movie where it's got an entire blue tint to it, grayscale tint to it. Now, there's sometimes a package that comes on a big case of a Panaflex camera that's got 15 lens, where it's still a Panaflex lens, but it's a shade of a particular light color. And there's a lot of mysteries about the tinting process as far as that's concerned, but you should know that the Panaflex always will have a way of pushing all layers next to each other. Now, with a layer of silk also, you'll always look perfect. So the world will always be staring as if they're in a dream, spying on you in a large bubble. And you gotta imagine what you feel like when you're in class in school and there's a hot girl that doesn't know you're looking at her from a diagonal platform in her blind spot. You get a good look at her cheekbone, the side of her face, and you got nothing else better to do, but you got to admire the genetics. If no one else here is going to admire this, I feel like I'm responsible to admire her. Just as my creed fulfilled to God. I'll notice her. It's just something that you make up so that you're not someone that's obsessed or sick or deranged. Someone should admire her if nobody's going to admire her, and that might as well be you. So with that said, what you realize that you do is you just go like this, up and down that one line. You have nothing else to do with your time. You are uninterested in the teacher. You don't give a crap about anybody. And you're just like this. You know the way your sister looks, and it's not that. So this is all the time in the world to just take into consideration how much better she is than other females. Already your beginning process of realizing certain calibers are this much better with her and not this at all with her. And you're going to take it upon yourself to be extremely judgmental at the extraordinary benefit of your private. It's human reproduction. There's nothing that you can do to fight it if no one's going to catch you. So you're just going to stare. My secret. And no one's going to stop me from it. Now, with that said, when you're watching or when you're in a movie, you need to take into consideration that Panaflex has every single perfected angle that you could ever want, front, side, rear, at all times. In fact, you're a blessing every single second that it rolls. I mean, your bank account is filling up with just all these stacks of cash. Every second that it rolls, you're looking like, diamonds are falling from the sky. You're in a safe place. Unless that director tells you every second you don't move with that Panaflex on you, your bank account is going up. You better hope that you don't have a director that says, "Give me more! Come on!" Because every time they do that, you'll lose money. All the people of my caliber, of where I come from, will actually turn and walk out of the theater. I haven't seen a single Netflix movie from a Netflix original. I haven't seen any of your Game of Thrones movies. I haven't seen anything virtually made in the last 5 years by anything that isn't obviously still at the theater proclaiming that it's from a Panaflex. And 7 out of 10 of them will be. It just goes unwatched. I will make sure to watch older movies over and over again because I have a lot to choose from. And I make sure that I keep my mind very close to who did it right before the encumbrance of this one guy right here and Boobalicious. I refuse. So just take this into consideration when you're wondering, what do I do? Okay. There is always less is more, and then not moving is best, and then if you have to. Now, if you ever feel like you've been possessed by some foreign entity ever during your acting time, because it happens, and it walks right in, you can adopt a character. That's different altogether. Now, I technically have a character that happened about 3 years ago that stumbled on me in Albuquerque. It's a good one. It's a stuttering entity, and it's one that is priceless. And it's ridiculous. I used it in court is when I used it for the first time. I actually got out of a ticket. It was when I first used it. I was trespassed from the school, and I had to go see I left the state and then came back, and then my warrant, I saw on the internet was there, and so I went down to talk to the police officer at the actual police station to say, the court building, at the municipal court building, to say I need to set it up for court dates. the police officer told me that they don't do that there, and I have to actually get taken into jail. And then that's when I started just talking like that. That my mom said that to drop me off and then reset my court date. And he goes, hold on. And he sat me in the security office, and then he made a call, and then he goes, after a little bit while, he goes, okay, well, the judge will see you right now. He walks me into this court building, and then the woman was talking to another person, not me, but I'm sitting in like the 8th row, and then basically like what I know and seen, I know that there's also problems with outbursts. So I said something really loud, and then she goes, excuse me, no. And then everybody looks at me like this. And that pretty much set it up for when it is I talked. And then they said that, no, we have to, and then they said something where they were saying no, and then I go, you said, and I went like that, and then the judge actually goes, okay. And then I said more than that. I said, you said that, and I said what she said, and then said it right back to her, except really loud. And then she said, okay, the case is dismissed. No. And then I would say something like that. I don't know. Whatever came to mind at the time. But I for the first time accidentally did something pretty weird and amazing. But it's something that I go to whenever I really feel like it. And there's not just me. There's a lot of other people in, I'm sure, Hollywood themselves, where much like Brad Pitt, in the movie 12 Monkeys, it's a walk-in. It's takes over. You can sort of have fun with it. A lot of actors watch you and they think that it's great when you actually get a walk-in, and it's really something special. Leonardo DiCaprio had one when he was in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. But these are things that confuses the concept of acting later on when they say, "Give me more," and it's basically done by a numbskull that's got too much money and too much leverage and found himself in a director's studio doing mostly porn, almost no movies, while just proclaiming you need to be more like Leo without saying it outright. And really what they're trying to gather is you need to get a walk-in because I don't have a good enough script to be back and forth with some Mallrats type of candor. And so because of my lack of the ability to write and then be on top of how you should talk if Curtis were to do it, they go with, this is your fault. Their approach is always, if I make them always feel like it's their fault, then when the movie's done, I'll have 12 actors and actresses that says this was all my fault. And that's sad because there's a lot of really, really awesome opportunity and some really quiet books over at Barnes & Noble. So if you want, please read in your off time anything by R.L. Stine, Fear Street, and you'll see some really smart back and forth conversations that still need to be made into some movies. And Dean Koontz, of course, and Christopher Pike also. So just to give you an idea about the possibilities, I appreciate your time.